on what TLink is. I'm not pitching for investment or anything like that, so I won't get too feature driven. I kind of want to go into the story and just hit, like, I recently read the Elon biography, and I think it's very powerful, like when you tell a story, because it hits such a vast spectrum of audience in terms of the lessons you can get out of it, just from, you know, the firing of a synapse to have an idea to actually creating revenue. So TLink, maybe, like, probably most of you don't play golf, so maybe I'll just explain why I think golf is such a great thing, because many people just don't get it. I don't view it as a sport, I view it as a game, but there's 3 reasons why I think it's like the best thing, or one of the best things that you can do. 1, it's an incredible way to spend 4 to 5 hours in nature. 2, it's an incredible way to do that with your friends and talk to them while you're doing it and converse. And 3, you're in a competitive environment while you're doing that. And there isn't many things that you're doing unless you're like the most competitive hiker ever and you're like socializing, where that, like, those 3 things fall in line. And technology should only complement those 3 things. They should allow you to enjoy, you know, nature and your conversations and the competitive side of the game even more and not distract from it. And I think a lot of the time, tech can really overstep what it should be doing, which is providing that, you know, extra little level of convenience to help you do what you want to be doing and become more of a distraction. And so TLink, one of the problems that we're solving, or one of the things that golfers need, just to give you some context, is they need to know how far away they are from the green at any given point in order to pick the right club to hit. You need to know how far I am, you know, if I'm on the fairway, to the green I'm hitting, to the front, middle, and back. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can get that information. There's free apps that you can download that you can use, take out. It's less convenient and it kind of drains your battery, but it's a great way to kind of get started with GPS. You can guess how far you are, you can pace it off, or you can use a GPS watch, which, as an avid golfer myself, I was a top 10 junior in Canada. I went down to Texas on a scholarship, played there for a couple years, very involved in the game. These GPS watches received mass adoption in a year from amateur golfers. And it's the same reason why wearable technology is just one of the fastest growing categories. Convenience. Look at your wrist, have the information you need in a second, and continue your round. It allows you to enjoy the game of golf that much more and not be distracted, because you get the data you want when you want it. But there were some gaps that I saw, and TLink, just to go quickly into what it does. So it's the world's first smartphone-powered GPS golf watch. So it completely relies on the GPS that's built into your phone. We've licensed the GPS coordinates of every single golf course, every green, every tee box, every fairway, every bunker, of every course in the world. We have that database in the cloud, and it uses the GPS on your phone to calculate how far away you are from any given point and relay that yardage over through Bluetooth to the TLink display on your wrist. So ultra convenient. We also saw a very quick colliding of the fitness world with golf. It's becoming slightly more of a lifestyle thing to do. It's a great way to get your 10,000 steps in, and not a single wearable was calculating steps, distance walked, calories burned in the game itself specifically. So we're the first ones to be doing that and use kind of the smartphone as the engine to do so, with the accelerometer built right into the watch. And something that we just rolled out last week, which I'm super pumped about, is stat tracking. So at the end of each hole, you'll punch in your score, your putts, and your fairways hit. And what that'll do, it takes like 5 seconds on your wrist, and it'll fill out a digital scorecard on your phone automatically, save all your rounds, save all your stats, so you can view it and see how you're doing over time. And that's a really cool part of our business model that I think is you're gonna start seeing more in wearable technology, which is, it's actually an in-app purchase. So you pay for it 99 cents per round, $5 per month, or $30 for a year for this upgrade on top of the free functionality that you already have. And I think, so the amazing part of that, we launched it last week, and we actually saw, of the people who downloaded it, a 20% conversion of people who paid for the update, which typically you'll see like a 5% if you're lucky. So I'm really interested in the idea of taking hardware and almost giving it away for free potentially at some point, and then monetizing it entirely through software. I think it's an interesting business model, and reoccurring revenue could be the biggest chain of revenue for us in the next couple of years here. I'm just going to skip this. Our biggest market, this is a pivot I'll discuss in the business, is actually corporate customization. I'll quickly show kind of how this is built and how we can do it. So the way, if no one's ever seen this, TLink is an individual pod that slides into a silicone wristband skin. And so what we've done is we've developed a manufacturing process that doesn't just allow us to put a logo on here, but it allows us to fully customize the entire wristband, top to bottom, over 100 colors, and the packaging gets made at the same time so that the color of the silicone band, or the silicone lid, matches what you pick for the wristband, and it's like a full custom experience. So we are actually the only customizable wearable in the golf space, like period. And it's a $10 billion market, so that's kind of our bread and butter right now. You know what, I'm just going to skip. These are some cool things. We're the first ones to be doing live leaderboards for golf tournaments, so if everyone's using a TLink to keep their score, they can go in the app, hit one button and see how everybody around them is doing in real time, something that's really only existed on the PGA Tour. Now we're just bringing it to public golf. We're doing location-based push notifications as well. So if someone's walking from like the 9th green to the 10th hole, send a push notification to player to say, hey, don't forget your free Molson Canadian beer at the turn. Or if they're stepping onto tee box number 12, we'll know that is a hole-in-one challenge. So send them a notification saying, hey, you are playing for a BMW here, and add more corporate value there. All right. All those slides look really nice. This is what the rest are going to look like. They look like crap, but it's pretty much just to help me, so don't even worry about it. Quick timeline. Incorporated, so idea, September 2013. I was in class, met my business partner at MRU. We were 20 years old at the time. Incorporated December 2013. Received $150,000 of angel funding in May 2014 to produce prototypes and just get the ball rolling on development. First prototype, July 2014. Raised another $600,000 in April 2015. We launched our product in June 2015, and then here we are 10 months into actually generating revenue, and we're about to cross $1 million in revenue.
Wow.
Like tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, so this is kind of cool to come back. I actually haven't even given a talk in Calgary at all since we've been a revenue-generating company. So it's nice that we're hitting our numbers and we weren't just full of shit. All right, so I'm going to start with the idea because I'm assuming there's some of you in here that like want to work on something like this or want to come up with something that you can just throw yourself into but haven't generated the idea yet. So a little bit of background. I probably put my 10,000 hours in. I haven't calculated it, but golf was like my life. It was everything for me, although I wanted to become a professional golfer and didn't quite make it there. I think it's super critical to like mention that I was very plugged into this game. I was able to understand what it was missing, where the gaps were, where the hole in the cheese lay, whatever it may be, and just kind of plug into the market and recognize these little gaps that there were. And it makes it so much easier when you exploit, I guess, just a passion, I want to say. It's so cliche, but more something that you just have knowledge in. It just makes it way easier. And it makes it easy to recognize the gap in the market. And I think people have a really tough time coming up with new ideas, and I certainly did. I knew I wanted to do something big, and I was always having such a tough time to come up with an idea because I was approaching it from the mindset of I need to create something that nobody's ever done before, like something out of nothing. And the reality is, almost all new ideas nowadays are just the connecting of one dot and another dot. Two ideas that already exist, pounding them together, getting them in the room, making them have sex with each other, and then boom, a baby is born and like something different comes out. And so in the case of TLink, it was taking these GPS watches that were completely dependent, just the watch, no smartphone, and GPS golf apps, and asking the simple question, what happens when you put the two together? And the answer was, quite a few different things. We get a cost of goods that is, our cost of goods is almost $20 a unit compared to our competitors, which are well over 50, and they're producing hundreds of thousands of these at a time. So because we're leaving a lot of like the GPS and the data and everything in the phone, cost of goods goes down. The weight goes down. It becomes very lightweight. And just the connecting of these dots and realizing kind of what comes out of that and what baby is born is a much simpler way to look at coming up with ideas. And that's really what TLink was. It was nothing novel. It was the connecting of two dots that nobody thought to do before. All right, moving on to the validation. So this is something that like everybody misses. And I was fortunate enough to go through Mount Royal University's entrepreneurship program with this idea. It was birthed in one of those classrooms and I picked up an amazing mentor, Ray DePaul there, who basically through these classes, all you do is you validate an idea. You don't just, it's so tempting just to go for it and just to dig in. And I did it before and I failed. And so listing your assumptions. So for me, some of the assumptions were very simple ideas, and for me, it was easy to fall into the trap of like just assuming I was right because I had my 10,000 hours already in this thing. But I was very wrong on quite a few things. And some of the assumptions were, did golfers value having a smaller, lightweight device over having more features? Was because the other watches are very bulky and heavy, that was one of my assumptions. And just, did they want to have a smartphone in their pocket while they were playing? I didn't know. I was cool with it, but that 60-year-old grandma that's playing, maybe she doesn't even have a smartphone, so we had to figure it out. And one of the cool stories that kind of led into the way we've designed this is the way we got our MVP. And for those who don't know, that stands for minimum viable product. So what's like the minimum piece of something that you can create to go out and invalidate what your idea is. And what we did is we went on Alibaba and we just sourced like 15 Bluetooth wristband pedometers from China, got them in, and we got all these different designs, all these different styles, and took them to a bunch of golfers and just said, look, this is like a finished product. This is what it does. It tells you your yardages to the front, center, and back of the green, and it tracks your activity. Which one do you want and why? And you tell them the price points and all that. And I was convinced they were going to pick this one model that looks very similar to the new Fitbit that came out, where it's like the same circumference all the way around. It's very sleek and thin, and nobody picked it, not one person. And I was the golfer, so I was a little astounded. They all picked, you can find this design on Alibaba if you go right now. We developed it from scratch, but this exact design exists in pedometers. And the reason they picked this is before we had the idea to pivot into corporate, was they liked the idea of being able to switch out the colors and wear different colors with their outfits. And they liked the idea of being able to have a belt clip option that you could slide the pod into if they didn't want to wear it on their wrist. And it was something that I totally overlooked. And if we didn't go out and validate and make that pivot, we would not be able to do the corporate customization that's 70% of our business today. So validation of any idea is critical. And then finding a partner is just a huge, huge thing that I took very seriously. I went to every Startup Calgary event, every Hack Night, Innovate Calgary, everything I could do. And this is simple. In terms of technology, that's just a dummy device that could display any piece of data coming from a smartphone. It doesn't have to be golf specific. It's a Bluetooth, a Bluetooth display. And everybody I'd met for a technical co-founder said, yeah, this is easy, can do it, no big deal. Let's roll, I can get it in a weekend. And I don't know if it's just all the Richard Branson books I read or something, but something just said, these guys just don't give a shit. They don't care at all. And it's amazing how important that really was to find my technical co-founder who, when I met him at Starbucks, and he happened to be a student as well, we're both 22 now, he was pitching me the idea by the end of it, telling me new features that I haven't thought of, new ideas, new markets we could get into. And waiting is super important if you're looking to explore an idea. And I'm glad I waited because our team is incredible. All right, funding. Funding sucks. I hated this. So the easy capital is the first step. And something that I didn't know about that if you guys are pursuing a tech idea that you should know about is government programs, like the Alberta Innovate Treasury Fund, AITF. Even once you start going, Shred, and there's a bunch of different ones. The only problem that they did have, they're improving, is the lead time to get something done. If between application and getting funding, it could be 3 to 6 months. And I just didn't know about these things. I was fortunate enough and lucky enough to be part of a university that had an incredible entrepreneurship backing and program, and they had these pitch competitions where we effectively got about $50,000 in yeah, I guess in the winter of 2014 to, do simple things like set up the company and just, like it's amazing how quickly you can spend money, but we just did it. And, but like getting this easy capital, I think the government is probably the best way, and I think tech just received more funding, AITF did. So if you have an idea, check out AITF. And then I just did it through pitch competitions, but that allowed us to get what you really need when you want angel funding in Alberta specifically for a tech venture, which is a little bit of momentum or a little bit of something that you can leverage to gain that investment. Because this isn't Silicon Valley, like you can't just show up with a napkin sketch and receive a $50 million valuation on your company. You need momentum in Alberta if you're not pitching oil and gas. And so our early momentum, we figured that since this thing's going to be app-based, and since there's a bunch of GPS apps that already have millions of users, maybe they want a wearable that will work with their app and that they will market to their users. It seems like a very clear path to our target market. And we started just basically acting like the product was already made, already funded, already like done, and started reaching out to every single one of these apps like total hotshots. Like I even set up like a fake assistant email account to get like my assistant to email them and like set up meetings just to like give the idea that we were there. And because of that, we received 5 like letters of intent for partnership with apps that had around 5 million users. And just like that, there's my leverage. And we're going to partner with them. And that was kind of the path that we were able to take to investors and go, here we have a perfect way to get into our exact target market that understands apps, that understands technology, already uses the phone, and is obviously kind of on the lower price tier when it comes to golf because they're using something for free, although they're still paying for golf. So it's perfect. And with that, we went and raised our first $150,000. But is anyone like in the process of raising funds right now? Anybody? Cool. All right. Something that I learned, which is super important, is just to be knowledgeable, like educate yourself on different ways of different, I guess, vehicles for raising capital. So read the books like Venture Deals. Go to Randy Thompson's, I think he called it Base Camp or Boot Camp.
VA Angels Base Camp.
Right, which is hosted by Randy still, right?
Yeah, it's still by Randy. I'll put that in Slack. It's actually a great resource.
Yeah, so I did that right before I was going to raise my capital. Pitched the VA Angels, and what I was pitching them was a convertible debenture. And this is a big lesson I learned, where I pitched the convertible debt, and I got $0. Nobody wanted to touch us. And all of the feedback that we got was, you have a great idea for this product, and you're probably going to make like a ton of money off this product, but we don't know if you have a company. Like, this isn't a company yet. And I don't know if I want to wait around to convert debt into equity for however long until you guys figure your shit out. And so 2 weeks later, we went back to the VA again, and we put them a new deal on the table. We pitched them straight equity, 15% equity for $150,000, but with a 7% royalty on all of our sales until they get their 150 grand back, and then the royalty's gone and they keep their equity. So that was us listening to them saying, okay, you believe in our product that we're gonna do well, put your money in, we'll get it out for you like right away, and then you can sit back and watch me work my magic. And we closed in a week. So being able to adapt quickly and listen to what your investors are saying is super important. Also, it's very important to like make sure your investors kind of care, because they back you up later when you have to do future rounds.
Can you repeat the deal again?
Sorry?
Can you repeat the deal again?
The deal? Yeah. $150,000 for 15% with a 7% royalty that drops when they get their money back.
But they keep the 15.
They keep the equity. Yeah.
How many?
I think there was in the
like double payment, like.
Sorry?
You're paying for like 150, 300, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Like you pay them back 150. You got 150.
Yeah, so they get the money back and then they keep their equity.
And then keep
Yeah, and then so we've done a second round, like I said, it was $600,000, and that was a convertible debenture because at that point we had a roadmap. That was later in the funding game. I think there's points where you just have to get a little bit lucky, and this was like one of the ones where we got lucky for sure. our initial strategy was, since we found someone that basically made this product already, why not just like contact them and get them to change a couple things about it and just plug in right with their manufacturing and save a bunch of money.
How did you go about copyrighting that idea?
Sorry?
You dealt with China. How did you make sure that they won't take it and just like, as they do, clone it and start doing the exact same thing? Did you have to make
Yeah.
signs?
Well, yeah, and there's contracts, and then also like we control the app, right? So you can't make a device that will be able to tie into our app unless we've coded it so that it can do so. So it won't work without the app, which we're in control of anyways. And so that was our idea. I think it was sound to use this manufacturer to just like tweak what they did and then pump out our own app and away we go. And that turned out being like a nightmare of communication. Nobody spoke English. We ended up having an audit done on them and they got like a D+ from the auditor. And we just like continued. I think we're gonna have questions at the end, man. Yeah. And so after that, we were featured in the Calgary Herald Startup of the Week, and there's an ask at the end of it. And our ask was, well, we need manufacturing help. We need someone to help us make these prototypes and produce it. And just by chance, some guy who has a brother in Hong Kong that used to live in Calgary, that's his job, is basically to find North American contract manufacturers for people. So he reached out. Like 3 days later, he was flying to Beijing to audit a company that he knew just to make sure they were still all good. And boom, we had our guys. We had an exact amount that we needed to get a prototype made. And away we went. And the beautiful thing about a contract manufacturer, if anybody's looking to make hardware, is not only do they produce the prototypes for you from the ground up, and produce everything, do all the molds, do all the firmware, do all the interface, find all the suppliers, but they also make sure that your procurement is correct so that when you actually go to production, you're ready to go to production. Because some of the Kickstarters that you guys back and I've backed, they don't do that. They create their prototypes with some company in Silicon Valley who made it with a chipset that has a minimum order quantity of 100,000 pieces. And so ours was made with all minimum order quantities of 5,000 pieces. And that's the beauty of going with a contract manufacturer and just keeping everything in-house. You avoid a lot of headaches. And I know guys that have had to redevelop their entire product with different components, different chipsets, different everything, just because they didn't take that time to kind of think about it and talk about that with their contract manufacturer. All right, this is like, and then you have your hello world moment, right? Where you have prototypes. We have like 25 prototypes in August, and we throw up a pre-order on our website just to like see if people are gonna take a look at it, get some traction. And we decided, we're gonna take these 25 prototypes, and we're not gonna make any more until we get distribution and we get like some momentum behind this product and figure out, what kind of demand there is right away in the retail market, because we're still not even in corporate. So we go to our first trade show in Las Vegas. And we're acting like we have inventory like on the way, because you just got to give confidence to the buyers to get some and at our second trade show, when we still didn't have inventory, which was like we were way delayed, we were telling everyone, oh, we've been sold out for like months, like we can't even get into retail yet, like we're selling out online, like we can't even keep it up, and that made them want it even more. And so that's like sell first, build second. So we go to these trade shows, we start getting people like introducing like, hey, here's our product, here's what it is. We got like distribution in Europe, all through the United States, all in Canada, just from going to these trade shows. And that was when the corporate opportunity kind of just smacked us in the face when, someone just offhandedly asked like, hey, can I get this in my company colors and throw a logo on it? It's like, shit, how hard can that be? Like, it's a silicone wristband. Like, they make billions of these a day probably in China, like the Livestrong ones. And so we developed a partnership that allowed us to do that and allowed us to fully customize the entire product. I actually have like in these like cool bottle packages where the entire thing can be customized with a 48-piece minimum, which is super unique. And it ended up being a market for a startup, which is very lucrative because Golf Town maybe is going to place a 200-unit order in all of their stores to start off, and you're going to get net 90 payment terms. BMW placed a 1,500-unit order with one phone call, and it was 100% cash up front. So that's like a beautiful way to fund a startup. And that one order, or one of the orders that we got, it was like 8 months in advance, and they paid for it 8 months in advance, and they were just funding us. So that was where the pivot was super important, and that's something that I think people kind of miss when it comes to startups, where you think you just have it like made and you have it set, and we're just going to go in this linear direction. And no, we pivoted well after we had funding into kind of this new market. While we're still doing retail and we're still doing online, but that's what we did, and I think it's important to note. And then it comes to actually launching. So actually like finally having product in users' hands, getting it out into the world, and doing our first production run. I don't know if anyone's actually doing hardware and manufacturing. Is anybody? Cool. Have you been to China yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, you're in for a good one. We were in China like all of May, both Stefan, my co-founder, and myself, and that was an experience. And I can tell you, I have so much confidence in the way the product came out of there. And if we weren't there, I gave it a 50% chance at not completely dying. And like it's amazing, because China, the big thing that you'll learn is they're so good at listening and doing exactly what you tell them. But exactly what you tell them is not always what you want them to do. They don't think ahead sometimes when it comes to production. Like I'm going to go over my time, but man, I have some crazy stories about like how close we were to the product just coming out like with a smiley face on it or something stupid. And so we're there for May, boom, June hits, product's on the world, like it's out there. And the way that I've liked to describe this moment is it's like you spend 2 years building this like really nice engine, and you're like in the garage and all day, every day, like showing people your engine, like getting awards for your engine, like here's my engine, it's beautiful. And then you finally like turn the key in it, and like that thing, like if you can get it to start on the first try, like good for you, because we didn't. It took time. Like we had issues, we had problems that definitely occurred in the device, and we had like weeks where we wouldn't sleep because we were just constantly iterating, constantly submitting emergency app updates into the App Store. And you know, even just infrastructure, like changing out our distribution partners that weren't working out, or hiring a sales manager that could, you know, manage our sales reps more efficiently. And this kind of brings to, you know, the shift that I find. And that moment of launching is something you need to prepare yourself for as a founder. You spend 2 years developing, and that's your mindset. Like we're building, we're raising money, we're building. And then it launches, and it's a 180-degree shift in what your problems are, and even like what your good days are. Everything changes. And you have to be ready to adapt. Like you have to completely change your mindset, and it takes time to, you know, figure out, like it's like almost running a new company. And that shift is happening again for us right now, which is really interesting, where we're in this big growth period, where we're really growing quickly. And people are like wanting our product, and so we're trying to scale. And my workload has got to the point where I think as a founder, you need to be brutally honest with yourself and like be very like relentlessly introspective, I think is the word, where you can constantly ask, you know, what's my role in the company, and is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And I'm at the point in the company right now where I'm bogged down too much by working in the company instead of working on the company. And that's an issue. And that's another switch, because now we're hiring. And that's a whole new thing to be, you know, to be going through as a company. And I think it's something that you need to prepare for these shifts and to be able to adapt. I don't know if there's much else. I think, you know, the one big thing that I've kind of been going through and learning, which I think is super important from a startup perspective, is everyone says it's a roller coaster. And it is. Like, we're in 2 lawsuits right now. Like, someone owes us a ton of money. Like, we're yanking back like 20% of our shares from some partners that we should never have partnered with. And it's going to end up like, and that, like, those 2 things have happened in the last 4 months. And, you know, when someone doesn't want to pay you $75,000 as a startup, that's a big bad day. And when some partners of yours that you gave 20% of your company to all of a sudden stop doing anything and want to like pin you up against the wall, that's a bad day. But those really bad days, actually, I've been finding always result in something really powerful. And I just want to tell like a really quick thing that helped me get through these moments because I don't know, I find I was a very reactionary human being. Like between the input of something happening and response is like opportunity, and I was seizing none of it. I was immediately reacting with emotion. And the story that really, anyone know who Alan Watts is? He's a philosopher. This is a good startup story, I think. It's quick. So there's a story of a Chinese farmer. And the farmer had a horse one day that just ran away. It was gone. And later in the evening, all these villagers came around and said, "Oh, isn't that terrible? Your horse, it ran away." And the farmer just sat back and said, "Maybe." And the next day, the horse came running back, and it brought 12 wild horses with it. And the next day, or that evening, the villagers came around and said, "Isn't that amazing? You got free horses." And the farmer just, "Maybe. Cool. Chill." And then the next day, his son was trying to tame one of these wild horses and flew off and broke his leg. And again, the neighbors came around, "Isn't that awful?" "Maybe." Until the next day when the conscription officers came around and were trying to enroll people for the army and couldn't accept his son for his broken leg. And the moral of that story is so indicative of startups is everything is just a perception. It's how you perceive these things as good or bad and how you really react to them that will completely make you the captain of your own destiny, per se. Thanks.
Nice.